when it comes to selecting objects and then either resizing them or repositioning them, doing a number of things to them within InDesign, there are two main tools that you're going to use, and they are distinctly different. They do different jobs. So I want to go over those very quickly. The first one is the selection tool, and that is the black arrow pointer at the very top of the toolbox. You press V on the keyboard at any time to activate that, with the exception of while you're typing. Obviously, if you press V while you're typing, you're going to type a V. Any other time, you'll grab the selection tool. And the selection tool will select an object, move an object, allow you to resize an object, allow you to hover outside of the corner of an object and then rotate it. And that is really about it. That is the selection tool. Those are its functions. I want to show you an exception to everything we just did there, or maybe rather than an exception, an additional piece of functionality within InDesign. When you select an image with the selection tool and change the size of the frame now, you're only changing the size of the frame. You're not changing the size of the actual graphic inside of the frame. So be aware of that. You're going to have to either decide that might be something you're looking for. Maybe that's a crop on that image that I was looking to achieve, and I'm okay. I can move on. Otherwise, you're going to have to decide now how to manipulate the graphic inside of the frame, and we'll get to that in another video when we go over working with frames in InDesign. But I wanted you to be aware of that. Okay, the other tool right below it, the white arrow, is the direct selection tool, and you access it by pressing A on the keyboard or just by clicking it. And the difference here is if I click in the center of an image and I move it, it appears like it does the same job that the selection tool does. But that's where the similarities end. Excuse me. If, on the other hand, I click one of the corners, in this case for the square, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, they're kind of small, but each of the four corners has an anchor. The one that I just selected is solid, the other three are hollow, if you will. And so that means this is the only point that is selected now. So now if I grab it with that direct selection tool, I can move it and manipulate that shape and make a custom container now, a custom shape, which opens up a whole new world of possibilities for either making custom shapes within InDesign or custom frames for images within InDesign. So if I grab a point, I can move it. If instead I grab a path segment between 2 points, okay, I can move it on its own. Move that back. On a circle, I can click a point and then change the way the curves are formed by manipulating the handles that made the curves. And then on this image that we used just a little bit ago, we used the selection tool to change the size of the frame. If I click on it with the direct select, now I'm going to choose just the graphic inside of the frame. So if I click it, and now I get, you see I have this hand. If I move it, the frame stayed where it was, but the graphic moved. All right, so now if I like, you start to see some new options. If I like the size and shape of the frame, but I don't like all this excess down here, or I want a little more creative crop, now I can size the graphic within the frame and get a little bit more creative with my crop. During the layout process in InDesign, rather than having to know back in Photoshop when I was editing this image exactly how it would get cropped, kind of know in general how it would get cropped, but then I can fine tune that within InDesign because of the way InDesign treats images, with both a frame and a graphic inside of a frame that can be manipulated independently. So those are the select and direct select tools within InDesign that give you a lot of flexibility, not only in placing and moving images, but then in creating custom shapes and custom frames as containers for your content.